Hello and welcome once again to Info Corona with me, Rajdeep Sardesai. Now, it was on the 23rd of March that the Indian government ordered the suspension of all international air traffic. The domestic flights were also stopped from the midnight of March 24th. It was seen as a necessary move as part of a wider lockdown. But it's a move that's had a huge bearing on the margins of all airlines in Corona times. Today in Info Corona, we are focusing on the airline industry and how COVID-19 has completely changed the dynamics of the aviation sector. Let's start by looking at this report.
The unprecedented lockdown has forced the grounding of hundreds of aircraft. All major airlines are staring at deteriorating balance sheets. All of them are in desperate need of cash. And most have announced pay cuts as well as job cuts. It's a bloodbath in the Indian aviation industry.
The situation for India is very severe indeed. We issued a revised forecast about a week ago. We're looking at a 47% fall in passenger demand. That translates into about negative $11 billion of passenger revenue for airlines in India. So this is absolutely unprecedented. And it's particularly damaging when you think that pre-COVID, India was the fastest growing market in the world. And we celebrated something like 54 months of double-digit passenger growth, which is unprecedented. India was swiftly moving towards the number 3 spot in terms of global aviation markets. So this has been a quite cataclysmic reverse in the market demand and the trend.
While airport operators and other stakeholders are expecting a huge dip in traffic and are preparing for it, they also expect some help from the government. Though the Prime Minister did meet the Civil Aviation Minister on 1st of May, there hasn't been any signal so far about a bailout.
Firstly, direct financial support, injecting money into airlines, liquidity. Secondly, things like loans and loan guarantees. Thirdly, corporate bonds or giving airlines access to the corporate bond market so that they can raise money themselves. And then fourthly, there are all the other government-related charges, taxes, levies, aeronautical, airport charges that can be deferred or taken away entirely for this period to reduce the burden on airlines and allow them to get through this period in reasonable shape.
While data experts are trying hard to determine when demand will return and how much would the airlines have to charge to earn their profits, many of the cash-strapped airlines have reopened bookings for domestic flights from as early as the middle of May. This, despite no word from the government on its decision to revoke its order on suspension of flights. The move reflects the precarious financial condition of India's aviation sector. And even after normalcy does set in, will air travel ever be the same again? Or will the experience change forever?
Meanwhile, the situation is just as bad in other countries when it comes to the aviation sector. The global airline industry on the brink of bankruptcy. Take a look.
With of the world's 26,000 passenger aircraft grounded, the global airline industry stands to lose $252 billion. The airline industry has been hit by the shutdown of most of its traffic, forcing mass layoffs and even bankruptcies. A survey commissioned by International Air Transport Association reveals that 40% travelers will wait for at least 6 to 8 months after the pandemic ends before they fly again.
First of all, they want to be reassured. They want to be in a comfortable situation related to the processes that we will use. They want to be also they want to wait probably a little before coming back massively on our aircraft, and so they are relying on governments, but also on airlines, on the industry, on the agencies, on professionals to build the appropriate measures for safe travel all around the world. And so that's what we are trying to do.
Chicago-based Boeing has initiated a voluntary layoff plan to its 160,000 employees as the aircraft manufacturer struggles to stem the financial strain from the COVID-19 pandemic. British Airways is set to cut up to 12,000 jobs from its 42,000 strong workforce due to a collapse in business because of the pandemic. EasyJet has laid off its 4,000 UK-based cabin crew for 2 months. Qantas has put 20,000 staff on leave, and 700 pilots at American Airlines have agreed to take early retirement, and Virgin Australia has collapsed.
This is not the end for Virgin Australia and its unique culture. Never one to give up, I want to assure all of you and our competitor that we are determined to see Virgin Australia back up and running soon.
Meanwhile, with thousands of planes parked on tarmacs across the world and no clear timetable for the resumption of air travel, billionaire investor Warren Buffett's company, Berkshire Hathaway, sold all of its shares in the 4 largest US airlines.
The world changed for airlines, and I wish them well, but it's one of the businesses we have. We have businesses we own directly that are going to be hurt significantly.
The global airline industry is staring at deep losses already, and the future does not seem much better.
Joining us now, 2 very special guests. Ajay Singh is Chairman and Managing Director of SpiceJet, one of India's leading domestic airlines. Stefano Barnocci is Director General Asia Pacific Airports Council International. Appreciate both of you joining us. Mr. Singh, let me come to you because let's get a sense from you what the last 6 to 7 weeks have meant for your industry. How difficult has it been for you and for your industry?
Well, this is the most terrible time ever. I don't recall, and I don't think the aviation industry actually recalls being in such a terrible situation ever in its existence in the history of global aviation. But of course, you know, it's our job to stay afloat, and that's what we've been doing. As you know, SpiceJet has been flying a lot of cargo aircraft and passenger aircraft converted to cargo and making ends meet.
So has that been the business model, converting passenger aircraft into cargo aircraft for the last 6 to 7 weeks? Has that been the business model? And what has that meant in terms of your bottom lines as well as, importantly, in terms of staff? Have you been forced to either keep staff away for a couple of months or lay off people or go in for salary cuts?
Well, you know, that has been the business model for the last 6 or 7 weeks. We have actually flown a lot of cargo, all the medical equipment into India, medicines into India, all these PPE suits into India, as well as fruits and vegetables from India to the Gulf and to Hong Kong and such places to help the Indian farmers because they are suffering as well with all their produce not being able to reach a market. So we've been doing that. It's been pretty good. We've done more than 5,000 tons of cargo in the last 6-7 weeks. And we played a small role in helping, both farming communities as well as the government of India, as well as, this whole COVID cause with what we are doing. And in terms of our people, we actually were able to pay significant salaries to about 92% of our people for the month of April. It's extremely tough, but we are trying to do our best. We are not laying off people at this time. We are opting for a leave without pay option for the most part for people who are unable to work. And we are providing a sustenance amount to those who have not been able to work and who are actually on very low salaries. So we are doing the best that we can. We expect that May will similarly be, a month where there will be a lot of cargo movement, but not much else. The evacuations, if the government asks us to evacuate passengers from different parts of the world, of course, Indian carriers will be very happy to do it. But aside from that, we will still try and pay as many people as we possibly can for the month of May as well.
So you will be part of, you hope to be part of the evacuation process, the one that has been announced, you hope to be part of the evacuation process, or if you are asked by the government, you will be more than willing to help Indians who are stranded in any part of the world?
Oh, of course, not only in any part of the world, but also within India. I mean, we see all these evacuations which are happening today, and many of them are happening using surface transport. In our humble opinion, this would be a lot safer and a lot faster and a lot more efficient if it was done using aircraft. I mean, imagine somebody going from today from Chennai to the northeast of India. Let's say a place like Guwahati or Shillong. I mean, it takes several days, 4, 5, even 6 days to reach there. And imagine these people being in a bus for so long, getting off at different points, trying to eat, meet people, try and take a toilet break or whatever. We think it's a lot safer just taking a plane and flying them for 2 hours across the country.
Interesting what you're saying, that you could use aircraft also in a sense to take people from one point to the other domestically. Stefano Barnocci, as a Director General Asia Pacific Airports Council, how do you see the industry now changing? How do you see it going ahead, given these new social distancing norms? How do you really see the entire aviation airport industry changing?
Well, the industry will have to change. It's already changing. The scenario is absolutely unprecedented. So the challenges and the risks that airports are experiencing is fundamentally different from what happened in the past. Our colleague expressed the interest of airports and airlines, of course, to focus at the moment on cargo, on repatriation flights. Those are essential services that have to be ensured to serve the communities. In terms of what will happen next, what will happen tomorrow, of course, there are several measures that will have to be identified to coexist with the virus, because that is really the scenario that.
So you don't see the traditional image of the crowded airports. Will that change completely? Will you have to find new ways in which to ensure social distancing at airports?
Absolutely. I mean, I see that as a transformation that will happen in stages. So at the moment we have fundamentally 92 to 95% of traffic which is no longer there at airports in Asia Pacific. So only 5% is left on average. This means that in order to prepare for the coming future, we will have to make sure that some measures such as social distancing, such as health screening, will have to be considered. How to do them? It's the question, and these require the cooperation of all industry operators, but also of the authorities, the competent authorities.
Let me take that precise point to you, Ajay Singh. How do you see airlines changing? Will you, for example, now, because of social distancing, at least in the immediate future, once you're allowed to fly, have one passenger every 3 seats, or you will have to leave the middle seat and have the aisle and the window? How do you see all that changing?
Well, I think firstly, this business of trying to put one passenger in 3 seats or leaving the middle seat, from my perspective, it's mostly eyewash. Because if you look at the distance between the aisle seat and the window seat, it's about 17 inches. So if at all you want social distancing on planes, you probably have to have people sit on either sides, just on the 2 window seats. And also, by the way, leave a row in between. So you can't have anybody on, for example, the second row if people are sitting on the first row. That's when you actually get real social distancing that is required for the COVID crisis. And if you do that, there's no way any plane is going to fly. Just remember also that this business of leaving one seat, imagine what this will do to aircraft flying to small destinations in India. These are all small aircraft with 2x2 seating. That will mean that you are capping capacity of that plane at 50%, at which point it will no longer be viable to fly into small destinations. And so no flights will fly. Look at what will happen when airline like Air India starts to fly, let's say, to Europe or to the United States. Now, most of the money there is actually made on the business class seats. And imagine if you had to leave one seat. These are all 2x2 seatings.
So what is the solution then? Given the fact that there are these norms being put in place, how soon do you see airlines returning to, should I say, normalcy, or will there be a new normal now?
Well, I think firstly, we need to do what is actually effective, not what is eyewash. And I think what is really effective is to use a proper face covering, a face mask, or even a face shield, should that be required. Perhaps to even have people wear disposable gloves. I think what we can do is to try and minimize contact, as contactless travel as we possibly can make it. For example, you could have people web check-in, 100% of the people web check-in, so that there are no lines formed at check-in counters. You could have baggage drop facilities. You have to figure out what to do about security checks. So you can try and do the best that you possibly can. But ultimately, you could use, for example, the Arogya Setu app more extensively. But I think ultimately, we will need to ensure that what is effective is what is implemented, and not just on the whims or fancies of somebody. So I think what really will help is if we can ensure that everybody is mandatorily wearing a face mask. Perhaps we don't have to serve any food on board so that nobody takes off that face mask. That's pretty much what I think that we can do.
It's a completely new world. Therefore, when will we see this new world? When do you expect at the earliest to fly passengers across this country?
Well, we don't really know. It's up to the government to decide that. But I still believe that aviation is probably the safest mode of travel. I mean, if you're going to allow passenger buses and metros and trains, aviation is a much more controlled environment. You can clean the aircraft, you can clean the seats, you can set, put in place rules where you can mandate, for example, face masks or gloves, or the way people are transported to the aircraft, or the way people check in, or the way people drop luggage. All this is very tough to do in other means of public transport.
Right.
So I would think that whenever they decide to start public transport, and they need to do it. I mean, if the economy has to pick up, people will need to travel. So you'd be surprised, Rajdeep, that much as I'm sure you want to go to your home state of Goa, the numbers of people today who are querying our websites and our partner websites, looking for holiday destinations, is really surprising. I mean,
really?
You see numbers of people.
Are you refunding those? You're saying a number of people want to go are looking for holiday destinations. If they book now, and that date is not met because the lockdown is extended, will you refund them?
So what we are doing is that as far as if the lockdown remains, then we are refunding. If, for example, if somebody books, let's say for 1st of June, which is because we've shut off bookings till the 31st of May. If somebody books for 1st of June and the lockdown gets extended beyond the 31st of May, then we are certainly refunding.
Okay.
But we are saying to people as well that please, when you book, you should know that perhaps the lockdown will get extended, and perhaps we will give you a credit shell and not cash back. Up till now, everything that has been booked during the period of the lockdown, as per government instructions to us, it has been refunded.
Okay, that's good to hear, Mr. Barnochi. Final quick word from you. When do you expect the world to come to some kind of normalcy? How will airports look? How do you expect the ideal airport to look come post-COVID?
Post-COVID?
Yeah, what will an airport look like?
Hopefully, post-COVID, it will be at the airport that we were forecasting before the COVID, in the sense that we will have found really the solution to neutralize this this risk. It's the transition which is really the challenge, and the fact of having to identify measures that are risk-based, effective, implementable, flexible, because this risk could be go up and down, and temporary. Is really what we have to look at.
Okay, so this is the transitional phase. It's going to be a new world. Ajay Singh suggesting that you're going to have to change the way you fly, wear face masks as a starter, possibly as a mandatory requirement if you fly tomorrow. But let's hope we fly sooner rather than later. Many of us have been grounded for way too long. Ajay Singh, Mr. Barnoche, I appreciate your joining us and giving us a glimpse into the future of aviation. Thank you very much for joining me on the show. Welcome back. You're with Info Corona, where we are focusing on one of the worst hit industries of Corona, aviation. Remember, this is a global pandemic. Therefore, aviation and travel have been affected across the globe. It's a sector that connects nations, and it has witnessed now to enormous financial losses and is staring at a flurry of layoffs and pay cuts. But that's not the only storm that's associated with a turbulent aviation industry. Many pilots, as well as air hostesses, are also complaining of harassment by those living around them. Take a look. Thanks for watching.
Pay cuts, leave without pay, and layoffs. That is all that seems to be making headlines these days. But for those associated with the industry, this is not the only thing bothering them. Before the flight operations were suspended, many of them were also stigmatized, ridiculed, and harassed by those around them.
Being in service industry, we people are facing a lot, like any...
This is an Indigo air hostess who took a few minutes out from her ride to work to send out this cry for help.
My company is taking complete precautions which is required to me to be safe from COVID-19. In spite of that, people are spreading rumors in my locality that I'm suffering with corona.
She's one of those who didn't have a choice but to work at the very front lines of the corona crisis.
Not at home, they are coming and harassing my mother like anything. She cannot go to the market to buy groceries because people are refusing her, which is a place full of hypocrites. In spite of that,
her video went viral, making her the face of harassment and hounding of airline crews before the airways shut down.
Your parents are working with airlines. So
an earlier video claiming to be that of an Indian flight attendant went viral, where she too alleged that crew members like her were being discriminated against by housing society members when they returned from international sectors.
We are responsible towards our society, we are responsible towards our family, and that goes unsaid. So I don't want you all to treat us like untouchables or boycott our family.
Another Air India crew member in Delhi had to face harassment, yet again by Vigilante Residents Welfare Association members.
Come to my house, okay, and click my photos, okay? I know my responsibility. I know my responsibility. I am a responsible citizen.
So bad was the situation that Air India issued a press release calling out the menace.
कहीं पे पता चला कि एयर होस्टेस को कॉलोनी में नहीं घुसने दे रहे, कहीं पे पता चला कि पायलट को कॉलोनी में नहीं घुसने दे रहे. ये तो सही नहीं है, ये तो बिल्कुल गलत है. ये लोग आपके बच्चों के लिए, आपके परिवार के लिए अपनी जान दांव पे लगा रहे हैं और हम इनके साथ ऐसा व्यवहार कर रहे हैं.
Hello everyone, this is Rahul Kamal here. Hope you enjoyed this video. For the latest news and analysis, like and subscribe the India Today YouTube channel and don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated.